ॐ श्रुति स्मृति पुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवत् व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणीम्। यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगाः ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनः यस्यान्तं न विदुःसुरासुरगणाः देवाय तस्मै नमः देवाय तस्मै नमः। Yeah. Sukanya. Am I audible? Yeah. Okay. So Sukanya, you're welcome to unmute yourself. Yeah.
Yes, Guruji.
So from 59, let's chant.
Yes.
Vishaya vinivartante
Vishaya vinivartante
niraharasya dehinaha
niraharasya dehinaha
rasavarjam rasopyasya
rasavarjam rasopyasya
param drishtva nivartate
param drishtva nivartate
yatato hyapi kaunteya
yatato hyapi kaunteya
purushasya vipaschitaha
purushasya vipaschitaha
indriyani pramathini
indriyani pramatini
haranti prasabham manaha
haranti prasabham manaha
तानि सर्वाणि संयम्य
तानि सर्वाणि संयम्य
युक्त आसीत मत्परः
युक्त आसीत मत्परः
वशे हि यस्येन्द्रियाणि
वशे हि यस्येन्द्रियाणि
tasya prajna pratishthita
तस्य प्रज्ञा प्रतिष्ठिता
ध्यायतो विषयान् पुंसः
ध्यायतो विषयान् पुंसः
संगस्तेषुपजायते
सङ्गस्तेषुपजायते
संगात् संजायते कामः
सङ्गात् सञ्जायते कामः
कामात् क्रोधोऽभिजायते
कामात् क्रोधोऽभिजायते
क्रोधात् भवति सम्मोहः
क्रोधाद् भवति सम्मोहः
सम्मोहात् स्मृतिविभ्रमः
सम्मोहात् स्मृतिविभ्रमः
स्मृतिभ्रंशात् बुद्धिनाशः
स्मृतिभ्रंशात् बुद्धिनाशः
बुद्धिनाशात् प्रणश्यति.
बुद्धिनाशात् प्रणश्यति.
Yeah. You can remain unmuted.
Yes.
So until 61, verse number 61, Bhagavan Sri Krishna was talking about the importance of the mastery of one's sense pursuits. So it's called in Sanskrit damaha. Damaha. So damaha. So dhammar or dham you should remember. Then you will remember damaha. So you must do. That is called damaha. Dham. You know, just do it. Nike. That is damaha. So even though I'm getting carried away, no, I will not allow myself to be carried away. That is the value that Krishna talks about from 58 to 61. Now, 62 onwards, which we started discussing last class, the psychology of desire was discussed. So how dhyayatah vishayan pumsah. He uses the word dhya. So dhyanam, we just completed dhyanam, just half an hour. And meditation. Here Krishna is using the same word, dhyanam. But dhyanam on what? Vishayan. About all the beautiful things that are there in this world. So many things are there. And so you enter a store. These days stores are all not small. They're all becoming bigger and bigger. I don't know. They say real estate is expensive, but all these people make bigger and bigger structures. Malls becoming big malls, multi-storied malls. Anyway, so then Vishayan, so many things are there. Dhyayatah. So we saw that. We explored that last time. How a little object that you see for the first time, it creates a little interest in you. Yeah. Am I audible?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe the video could be choppy, but at least if the audio is fine, I think we should be all right. So I have to conserve this bandwidth, because today afternoon also we have a couple of classes, and some days there are 2 classes, 3 classes, and so we get into this bandwidth limitation. You know, we have this per day quota in India. Sometimes you can get unlimited quota on all, but generally there is some limit. You know, 2 GB, 3 GB, 5 GB, like that. Anyway, so how dwelling on an object creates an interest. Dhyayato vishayan pumsaha sangasteshu pajayate. There is an attachment that is developed to that person, to that object, to that quality of an object. Okay. And then what? Sangat sanjayate kama. Then that desire to be with that person, desire to possess that object, that becomes kama. This we saw last time. So I won't dwell on this anymore. So we talked about how all these advertisements, they want to create that initial interest, that seed. All they have to do is put the seed in you, and then that's it. After that, the seed will do the job. So then we saw that because now that I have a desire, an intense desire is there, it's not something that can be dismissed easily. It's no longer a fancy. And so now I have to deal with it. And not all desires are going to be fulfilled. We have numerous desires. And even just our own body. Okay, maybe I'm not something, I don't accumulate things. I'm not a person who keeps buying more and more things, etc. All this. But even the body is there, simple desire to be healthy, desire for family members to be healthy. How it can be fulfilled? Can it ever be fulfilled? Never. We want to be healthy, and then disease comes. Then we get better. Then we wait for some time. Again it comes. This is how it is. This is how the body is. So therefore, desires can be temporarily fulfilled, but then permanently never fulfilled. But there are other desires where, no, I want to buy this, buy that, or about people, there are desires. And so we discussed last time how anything that comes in between me and my desire, and my desired object, becomes a target of my anger. So Krishna says, Kamat Krodhaha Abhijayate. So this Kamat means from that desire. Kamat Krodhaha Abhijayate. Anger is born. Abhijayate. Anger is born. So the intensity of my desire, how strongly I feel about that thing or person or object, that will decide how angry I'm going to get. That will decide the intensity of my response to that abstraction. Correct? And so that desire becomes anger, Krishna says. Anger is nothing but a different form of desire. That's all. Very interesting psychology, right? I'm sure psychologists will have written a lot about it. But here Krishna is saying, Kamat Krodho Vijayate. From the desire comes anger. So if you understand the root cause of anger, it's important, because then I can manage my frustrations, manage my disappointments, manage my emotions like anger. Correct? So important. That's why it comes back to desire again. And so this anger is there in our life. There is this sources of frustration are way too many, and governments you look at, and the government is not laying proper roads. Here we have all kinds of complaints. Roads are not good. Pollution is there, and so on and so forth. It's an endless list. So we have to learn how to manage all this. Minimum how to manage, and therefore this becomes important. This analysis becomes important for us. So because desire is a cause for anger, according to Krishna, the immediate conclusion we make is we must avoid desire. We must give up desiring. This is the popular notion, very popular. So ichha ko chhod do, ichha ko tyag karo. So we have to understand this carefully. That's all. And ichha is part of us. It's really part of our constitution. So you can't say give up desire. Icha is a Shakti. We've said it so many times. Therefore, we don't need to give up desire. And we can give up desires also. There are some desires that come and then, like fancy, they just drop off. And you say, you dismiss those desires. But even if you are not able to dismiss desires, how can you dismiss a desire that I wish my body is healthier? How can you dismiss it? Pain is unbearable. How can you not? You will say, I wish I'm free from this pain. That's a desire, normal desire. So here, Krishna talks about removing the bite of these desires, because these desires need not be fulfilled to the extent I want them to be fulfilled. And so, this neutralization of raga dveshas, karma yoga, again going back to that, we got introduced to that prasada buddhi and ishwararpana buddhi. The attitude that I offer, whatever I do, I offer it to Ishvara. Whatever comes, despite my best efforts, is a prasada. So this prasada, attitude of prasada keeps coming every time. Prasada buddhi. Swami Paravadyanandaji says, Jaykumar, karma yoga is it. Karma yoga is it. You focus on it, then everything else becomes automatic, he says. And so there, that is implied in this. Krishna is not saying it here, but it's all implied. And anger. So control your anger. Sometimes they say, control your anger. Yeah, when a situation arises where I am angry and I'm about to say something, then they say control your anger means you watch out. You're too angry now. And it's better you walk away from the situation. Okay. And why? Because anger seems to steal away, take away all my dharma, viveka. So I know what is to be done. I know what is not to be done. I don't do what is not to be done. This dharma I am clear about. But this anger, when it comes, what does Krishna say? Krodhat bhavati sammoha. Look at that word, moha. Moh dhatu. Moh dhatu. Moha. Moha means delusion. It's a literal translation. Delusion. Delusion means what? The ability to process goes away. This mind that I have, the intellect that I have, that we all have been using, and that faculty seems to be not there. So Swamiji says like this: when you're really angry, you're not going to think, should I punch this fellow on the nose or should I kick him on the back? You know, this kind of thought doesn't happen. When you're really furious, something happens. What happens, we don't know. You know, whether it's a slapping action, whether it is saying something so insulting, so wrong, nothing. We don't know what's going to happen. So that's why when you see some of these viral videos, they say, of some brawl that happened in the street, and these street brawls, generally politicians are involved, especially in India. America, I don't know whether it happens. India, these politicians are not afraid of punching each other. In the court also, in the parliament it happens. Just a few days ago it happened. So you can see how that process happens. Smriti, sammoha, moha, delusion. Anger seizes your ability to think. So here Krishna uses the word sammoha. And bhavati sammoha, bhavati. So there is no time lag. When anger is there, that's it. The viveka is gone. The process to think is gone. That is why it's so important to recognize anger in ourselves and recognize anger in others also. And Swamiji would tell us that you should empower your children. Empower your children to tell you that if you're angry, remind me that I'm angry. No, parents, empower your children to tell you, hey, dad, you're angry. I think we should have this conversation for later. Okay, a simple thing which can help a lot, go a long way to protect our relationships, because anger can do a lot of damage. Then what? Okay, krodhat bhavati sammohaha, sammohat smriti vibhramaha. From that delusion, what happens? Smriti vibhramaha happens. Sammohat smriti vibhramaha bhavati. Bhavati means becomes, happens, exists. Different ways of translating that. Smriti. Smriti means memory. Memory. So we have learned so many things in our life, from our experiences, from our elders. Things that are not there in the books, we learn only by in the presence of elders. And all that is there. We are a sum total of all our past experiences, and we use all of that for our benefit. But here he says, Smriti Vipramaha. Once delusion happens and you allow it to continue, then everything I've learned of value is forgotten.
Yes.
Vipramaha is forgotten. That's very sad. So it's like all the tools you have with you, and they are now suddenly not available to you, as it were. And then what? Smriti Vibhramaha. Smriti Bhramshat. Look at that. So Sangat, Kamat, Moha, Sammohat, Smriti Bhramshat. That means from that thing. From what thing? Smriti Bhramshat. From that incapacitated person, from that state, what happens? Buddhi nashaha. Buddhi nashaha. Complete blackout. This person is not what he or she used to be, and this buddhi, the faculty, is completely gone. What did we say early on when we studied the basics of this Vedanta? What is the difference between an animal and a human being? We saw that. Ahara nidra bhaya maithunancha samanyametat pashubir naranam buddhirhitesham adhiko visheshaha. Between animals and humans, ahara, food, nidra, sleep, bhaya, fear, maithunam, procreation, these are all common for all animals, including human beings. Then what? Buddhirhi tesham adhiko visheshaha. Buddhi. Among these attributes, there is something called buddhi, which is very unique to the human being. That buddhi. So there he says, buddhirhi tesham adhiko visheshaha buddhya vihinaha pashubhis samanaha. Without that buddhi, that person is like an animal. Pashubhis samanaha. So here, look at that. Buddhi nashat. Person has become an animal, as it were. No more human being. So anything can happen. Such is the state. Anything can happen. Biting, kicking, punching, shouting, slapping, even killing the other person or killing oneself. Anything can happen in that situation. So impulse takes over. Impulse takes over means what? It's like a car just going and suddenly the brakes are gone. That's it. You can imagine what can be which direction the car will go. Nobody can guess. Okay. Now, look at this shloka. Okay. So there are two verbs that are used in this shloka. Okay. So dhyayato vishayan pumsaha sangasteshu upajayate. Upajayate is the first verb in that shloka number 62. Second verb is sangat sanjayate. So both jayate, jayate. And then third verb also, kamat krodha abhijayate. Jayate also is the same verb. And then if you proceed further, krodhat bhavati sammoha. Now jayate is not being used, he uses bhavati. Then again, sammohat smriti vibramaha, bhavati implied. And so it's smriti bhramshat buddhi nashaha, bhavati implied. So there is a difference between these two verbs. Let's understand that. Jayate means is born. Something causes something else. Cause, effect. This is the effect produced from this. That is the meaning. When the sun rises, the process of photosynthesis is initiated, is born in the plants. So sun rises and then something happens. So here also, object is thought about, then I develop an attraction towards it, an interest towards it. So that interest is born, like that Krishna is saying. So the interest is born. Then sangat sanjayate kamaha. So dhyayato sangaha upajayate. Then kamaha upajayate. Kamat krodho abhijayate. Anger, till anger he says is born. Then he says becomes. Bhavati means becomes. Anger becomes delusion, delusion becomes loss of memory becomes
Loss of intellect.
the loss of intellect. Correct? Now, what is the difference between these two verbs? What is implied is, until anger, you have some control over yourself. Until anger takes place, you have some control. You can still, your mind is available and you can still intervene and say, no, I think I'm getting carried away. I think this is not right. I think I need to think through it, etc., etc. The possibility of intervention is there until krodha. When you allow anger to take yourself over, then what? Krodha bhavati sammoha. There is no time. It happens. You have no control over yourself after the anger stage is crossed. I hope you're following me. So until anger, you have the ability to intervene. That is the implication here. Krishna's choice of words here. Okay. And then krodhat bhavati sammoha, etc. Bhavati means to be. Happens. Just like that it happens. There is no time involved there. That's the meaning. Okay. So what is the purport of these two shlokas? I want moksha. That means what? Instead of meditating on all the things that are there, you're welcome to use anything you want, which is needed. The body needs certain things to survive. But instead of obsessing over things, you better focus on yourself. Meditate on the self. Earlier shloka also we saw matparaha, correct? We saw that matparaha. He mentioned in shloka number 61, correct? Tani sarvani samyamya. So, how to focus on myself? I am sitting in meditation. I'm supposed to meditate. And the mind is so I'm supposed to meditate. And I'm sitting in meditation and all kinds of things are going on in the mind. Correct? It's a common experience. There's no need to be alarmed by that. That's how meditation starts. Meditation can be scary initially, and because you sit and you've never done it before, and then you sit and then nothing happens. I mean, it's the mind is wandering all over. That's when you realize the power of your mind, I suppose. That's another advantage of meditation. You recognize how I've allowed myself to be carried away by so many things. So Krishna says, instead of meditating on all these things, you come back to yourself. Meditate on yourself. Mat paraha. Going back to that shloka. And so that is how these two shlokas have to be understood. Very beautiful, simple psychology, not very difficult at all. And so let's go back to these shlokas. And pumsaha, there is that word pumsaha. I didn't explain it. And purushasya, that is the way to look at it. Purushasya, shashti vibhakti, pums pratipadikam, pullingam prathama shashti vibhakti ekavachanam. Okay, so pumsaha means of that person. Of that person. Of what kind of person? In the person who dwells upon objects. Dhyayataha vishayan pumsaha. Okay. In that person who dwells upon objects, comma, an attachment is born with reference to them. Them means vishayan, right? Sangaha teshu upajayate. Teshu, in them, vishayeshu, sangaha upajayate. An attachment is born. An interest is born. A like is born. Or a dislike is born. Okay. Full stop. From attachment is born desire. Sangat sanjayate kamaha. Full stop. And from desire, anger is born. From desire, anger is born. Kamat krodaha abhijayate. Next. Krodhat bhavati sammohaha. From anger comes delusion. From anger comes delusion. And from delusion comes the loss of memory. Sammohat smriti vibhramaha. In brackets you can say bhavati. Okay. From delusion comes loss of memory. Full stop. Because of the loss of memory, comma, smriti bhramshat, the mind becomes incapacitated. Because of the loss of memory, comma, the mind becomes incapacitated. Incapacitated means incapable of doing what it is supposed to do. Incapacitated. And when the mind is incapacitated, buddhinashat, the person is destroyed. Pranashyati. Pranashyati. So the person, you can put in brackets, Purushaha pranashyati. Because of the loss of memory, the mind becomes incapacitated. And when the mind is incapacitated, comma, the person is destroyed. As though destroyed. Because the mind, the buddhi, being the most important faculty of this human being, person is as good as destroyed. Okay, good. So we will move to the next shloka. So here Krishna is going to talk about, okay, this being so, the desire and uncontrolled desires and unmanaged desires creating so much havoc in my life. How can I deal with that problem? That he's going to mention in 64. So let's chant number 64. Okay. Anybody who's volunteering? Ami, you can unmute yourself.
Yes, Guruji.
Yeah. Okay. Number 64. Raga Dvesha
Raga Dvesha
Viyuktaistu
Viyuktaistu
Vishayan
Vishayan
Indriyaischaran
Indriyaischaran
Atmavashyaihi
Atmavaschaihi
Vidheyatma
Vidheyatma
Prasadam
Prasadam
Adhigachati.
Adhigachati.
Yeah, so all of you can repeat. Ragadvesha Viyuktaistu
Raga Dvesha Viyuktaistu
Vishayanindriyaischaran
Vishayani Indriyaischaran
Atmavashyairdheyatma
Atmavaschai Vidhiryatma
Vidheyatma
Vidheyatma
Prasadamadigachati.
Prasadama Adhigachati.
Good. So, is there some background noise here from my side? I see a message.
Is it from my side? There's a lot of construction going on at the back.
No, I don't see anything from you. So that should be all right. Okay. So the question from Swapna here, and that is Upajayate, Sanjayate, and Abhijayate in the previous shloka. Do they all mean the same? Yeah. So there are different ways of saying the same thing. Sanjayate happens surely. Samyak jayate, nobody can stop it. Happens very well. Okay. So sangat sanjayate kamaha, kamat krodho bhijayate, krodaha abhijayate. Abhi means completely. It has a sense of completeness, and so abhijayate. And then what? So there was one more. No. Yeah, sanjayate. And then upajayat. Sangahateshu upajayat. Upa means upasamipe, like Upanishad, that same upa is there. Upa means samipe, means near. Near means what? Not far away. Very interesting how Sanskrit works, does it not? So not far away. When you dwell over objects, then attachment is not far away. That is what it means. Very interesting how all these things, every particle, every prefix, every suffix is meaningfully used in Sanskrit. Okay, good question. So So we have seen this, dhyayate, vishayan, pumsaha, etc. And how this sangha is formed, how kama is born, and then how everything else is fast moving. So smriti vibramaha, pranashyati, etc. So here Krishna is talking about how to address that problem. Now, if it's a serious problem, then one has to take emotional advice, one has to seek counseling, one has to use all the counseling tools that are there, use to talk to people, etc. So for that person, Bhagavad Gita is not the right book. Means it may be the right book, but the emotional problems have to be dealt with first. Otherwise, it won't allow you to pursue this knowledge, correct? Very obvious. So here, taking care of it, not the serious problems, but for somebody who is already in this pursuit. So we're all mumukshus here. So therefore, here Bhashyakara, Shankaracharya says that mumukshu, because this force is so powerful, that rasa, as we saw earlier, the rasa is always there, and so it can come up anytime. And so he talks about fundamentally taking care of it, not relatively. Relative taking care of, we have to do by doing puja, by doing sadhanas, by talking to people, by taking, I remember once somebody had this problem of anger, getting furious at family members, and abusive, physically abusive. I know that person. And beating children and all that. Very, very harsh it was. And so at that time, I recommended this anger management is there. Some programs were there and beautiful talks on that. And those kinds of tools one must take advantage of. In this day and age, with so much on the internet, etc., one needs to put that to our benefit, leverage all those tools that are available. And so those have to be done, no doubt. And because anger causes problems for oneself and for everybody else, and relationships are affected by that. So one has to spend time on this. If that is a problem, we have to assess ourselves and we have to see what are the things that are problematic to me. And for that, all you have to do is ask your wife or husband. Very simple. They will tell you a big list. And then you have to say, oh, hold on, not that much. Tell me the top 2-3 things that you don't like about me. And they will be happy to share that with you. And but it has to be done in a proper environment. So sometimes you have to do that self-assessment, and very important for us to, in this pursuit, very important. And I was so impressed. And in when I was working, they used to have these talks by invited speakers in our companies on all these aspects. And so I got exposed to a lot of interesting tools out there. And some speakers are so good, and they just give you so much insight on some of these aspects. And emotion, they talk about emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is what? It's karma yoga. Very important. It's karma yoga, of course, is a lot more than that. But the companies have come to recognize that emotional intelligence is important. In fact, perhaps more important than the resume that we show to companies, correct? They are recognizing it because it is important. Relationships, communication, all these soft skills are all very important. Everywhere, at home it is important, in companies it is important. So here, Krishna is going to talk about how to address it fundamentally. Okay. So he's not going to say, go seek counseling, go talk to a psychologist. He's not going to say that, because that's assumed. He assumes we know that. And so here, this person is a mumukshu that is addressed. Who is a mumukshu? One who recognizes that there is more to life than artha, kama, and dharma. That person is addressed. One who is seeking moksha. Okay, so that person has already gone through all experiences. Seeking security is not new to the person. Seeking kama, pleasures is not new to the person. And still, if there is a vacuum, then that person recognizes the need for this fourth purushartha called moksha. And so that person is being addressed. And so here Swamiji says, Viveka, again Viveka, that which is a prerequisite for this pursuit of this knowledge, the discernment, ability to discern between right and wrong, and ability to discern between Atma and Anatma. We discussed that several times, and that Viveka goes away if one allows oneself to be carried away by sense pursuits. And so therefore that mumukshu must necessarily have viveka all the way, alertness all the way. And why? Because that rasa is still there. Ragadveshas never go away. They're always there. Nobody can say it's gone. And so because of that, because that is how it is, rasa is always there. And so the pursuit being what it is, pursuit being moksha, this fundamentally addressing the ragadveshas is important, likes and dislikes. And that's what Krishna is saying here. And Swamiji gives the example of Arjuna. He says, the 18 chapters are over. Krishna has finished talking. 18th chapter is there. Arjuna says, Nashto mohaha smritir labdha. Okay, he says, Nashto mohaha. I am no longer deluded. He makes a very big statement. I think he must be happy. He must be clear. Clarity is there. And he is ready to charge forward, do what is to be done. So he says, Nashto mohaha. He makes a big statement. I am no longer deluded. I am crystal clear about what I should do. He says that. But then later on, there is a traumatic incident that happens in his life. Abhimanyu, his son, dies, gets killed in the war. And he cannot handle it. So these are the events that really test us, So those events which are so important to us, our own family, children, etc., parents. And so he says, Arjuna says, I will avenge the death of my son. He's furious, and he's just makes that statement. Whoever killed my son, he will not be alive. By tonight, I will finish him off. So Swamiji quotes that and says that emotion, Swamiji says, is a reflection of the ragadveshas that are still there. Not that this is not a traumatic event. This can be a traumatic event. But it cannot cause those negative emotions in me. Sadness is okay. Sorrow is okay. Trauma is okay. Okay means what? Unbearable. It's not okay. But then I am going to take revenge on somebody. That is different. I have to do what is to be done. I have to continue the war, etc. All that is perfect dharma. But Swamiji quotes this and says, no, Arjuna has to take care of ragadveshas. Like that, Swamiji says that in his talks. And so, again, we will come back to Karma Yoga. And that Karma Yoga alone can neutralize the power, the bite, the sting of the ragadveshas. And because the person can't run away from the world. Oh, all these things are happening, so I will just walk away from my duties. No, that is not possible. That's not possible. That's not correct also. And sometimes, we observe in some religions. So in Buddhism, for example, I used to watch this. These children, young children are given sannyasa. They are given the robe, the orange robe. And you find these young sannyasis in Buddhist monasteries, etc. One has to be very careful here because sannyasa is a very important thing. Sannyasa means you give up everything and no longer all the artha kama pursuits. And to make a child into a sannyasi can be a potentially dangerous proposition because the person has not grown up. The person should grow up, and the natural biological processes are there, and marriage is an important thing, and they have to go through these things. Otherwise, we don't know what is there inside this child. I mean, there are special cases where children are very mature, very spiritually advanced. All that is there. I agree. We allow for all that. In our matas, they do that. Sometimes the successor is chosen even when the boy is hardly 6, 7, 8 years old. Can you imagine? And that person becomes our mathadipati, our acharya, Shankaracharya. What a culture it is. But they choose that person carefully. The acharyas they know what is what. They know what is inside a person. So that giving sannyasa en masse to children, and I don't know how they do it, but I used to have concerns about that. That's not a good thing. Something to keep in mind. Anyway, so this Arjuna situation is like that. Even Arjuna, we are all Arjunas, remember. So Arjuna was told, which means we are also told the same thing that Krishna told Arjuna. And so no running away from the world. Therefore, Krishna uses the word charan in the shloka. Charan. What is charan? So ragadvesha viyuktaistu vishayan indriyais charan. Charan means pursuing, experiencing, doing things in this world. No running away. As and when one is involved in one's life activities, charan. And indriyaihi charan. Indriyaihi means with the sense organs. Sense organs are constantly operating. And because that is the focus, that is the attention here, that is a topic here. Indriyaihi charan. Everybody engages in this world, of course, through the operation of their sense organs, the 5 sense organs, and the 5 organs of action, hands, legs, etc., organs of actions, vocal cords, speech, that's a organ of action. Of course, that is how we interact with the world. And so, indriyaihi charan. And how, in what manner? He's going to say that. Atma vashyaihi, ragadvesha viyuktaihi. These 2 are adjectives. Adjectives to indriyaihi. Now, what kind of sense organs? That he's talking about here. Ragadvesha viyuktaihi. So, free from the spell of the sense organs. I mean, free from the spell of raga and dvesha. Excuse me. Using the sense organs which are free from ragas and dveshas, which is free from the hold of the ragas and dveshas. That is what he's saying. And so that my actions are not decided by my likes and dislikes, but they are decided by dharma and adharma, what is to be done and what is not to be done. And eventually, what is to be done becomes what I like. What is not to be done becomes what I don't like to do. So those 2 we talked about last time, they converge. And so for that person, the mind becomes in his control, her control, completely. So Atma Vashyaihi, Krishna uses the word Atma Vashyaihi. Atma Vasha. Vasha, we talked about this word a few classes ago. Vasha. Vasha means control. In whose control am I? That is the question. And am I in the control of the world around me, or am I in control of myself? Myself. Atma Vashyaihi. Atma there is not the Sachidananda Atma, but I am in control of myself. The sense organs are in control of me. The mind is in control of me. So that kind of mind and senses I have, or this person has, Mumukshu has. So Ragadvesha Vyuktaihi Indriyaihi Atma Vashyaihi. All these are adjectives to Indriyaihi. Charan. Okay. So engaging with the world with the mastered senses and mastered mind. Then what? Vidheyatma prasadam adhigachati. So the verb here, second verb here is adhigachati. Gains. Gains what? Gains prasadam. Gains prasadam. Now, this is interesting. Prasada we've seen so far. Prasada means the attitude of acceptance of anything that I get, anything that I experience as a result of, as a gift of Ishvara, as a result of what Ishvara has given me. That is prasada buddhi. But here prasada is used in a different meaning. Different meaning. So it means a state of mind that is cheerful, that is joyful, that is calm. That is calm. Cheerfulness, tranquility. Swami uses the word tranquility here. So there is nothing that disturbs me. That's the idea. So prasadam, that person, that mumukshu who has mastered his or her sense organs and the mind gains this tranquility. That is the import of this shloka. And so here Swamiji says, almost total absence of agitation and self-dissatisfaction. Look at that. Almost total absence of agitation. Almost, the word almost is used. And then self-dissatisfaction. Self-dissatisfaction. So important. I am not happy with myself. This is it. This is the fundamental problem. I keep blaming everybody else, but finally, I am not happy with myself. I keep blaming everybody else because I don't want to blame myself. That's not my nature to blame myself. I point my fingers at everybody else. But here, self-dissatisfaction, that absence of self-dissatisfaction, and that is prasadam, tranquility. So we can finish by translating the shloka. Tu, there is a word called tu there. Ragadvesha viyuktaihi tu. Whereas, comma, tu. One whose mind is mastered, okay? One whose mind is mastered, vidheyatma. So I'm pulling the word from the second line, vidheyatma. Whereas, tu vidheyatma, comma, moving in the world of objects. Okay, moving in the world of objects. Vishayan charan. Vishayan charan. Vishayan objects charan. Literal meaning is moving or engaging with, doing things. That is the meaning. It's a way of saying in Sanskrit. With the sense organs that are under his or her control. So, with sense organs that are under his or her control. So, which means what? Atmavashyaihi, right? His or her control. And then, comma, ragadvesha viyuktaihi, free from likes and dislikes. Free from likes and dislikes, comma, attains tranquility. Attains tranquility. Prasadam adhigachati. Okay, so let me read that translation. Whereas the one whose mind is controlled, comma, moving in the world of objects with the sense organs that are under his or her mastery, comma, free from likes and dislikes, comma, attains tranquillity. Okay. Okay. So we'll stop with that today. So I hope those who are writing it down wrote it. Do you want me to repeat it again? Okay, good. So ragadvesha viyuktaihi tu vishayan indriyaihi charan atmavashyaihi vidheyatma prasadam adhigacchati. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. So today happens also to be the 5th anniversary of Swami Dayanandaji's Samadhi. September 23rd, 2015 is when he attained Samadhi. And so it's kind of coincidental that we requested Swami Sadatmanandaji to speak, and it happened to be today. I didn't think of it like that, but it just happened like that. And then I also heard that Swami Pratyek Bodhanandaji, his body is going to be sent to India, and so it's coming here. They're going to do a Jala Samadhi in Gujarat, and so many sannyasis, many Swamijis are going to Gujarat right now. That's what I've heard, and so we seek their blessings in our pursuit. And so Swami Tattvavidanandaji was talking day before yesterday, when he announced this. And then he said, what is this? You may be asking, how come you're having a Vedanta class when a sannyasi passed away? Like that he was talking. He said, this is our culture, this is how it is. We are sad at what happened, but we acknowledge that this is the reality. So where is the sorrow? We have to accept. Let's learn from this experience. Like that he talks. And so why should we not? In fact, today is the day we must have a Vedanta class. Like that. So very interesting. That's how we grow when we are in the midst of sannyasis. Very interesting. Anyway, so we will pause with that. And it's 8:10 here, so we don't have time for a satsang. Maybe we'll take one question if you have one. If I see a hand that is raised. Okay. Go ahead, Haraprasad.
You said Jala Samadhi. His body, he is no more alive. But I was under the impression, as it happened for one of the head montif of Sungeri, he had a Jala Samadhi, but he was alive. He had a Samadhi while he was alive. Do you know anything about this?
Yeah, so we hear that the Samadhi, so a person can choose to take Samadhi, okay? Or a person falls away, drops by natural course. And so in both cases, Jala Samadhi is used. The word Jala Samadhi is used. So what they will do is, in both cases, the person is made to sit, kept in sitting position, and immersed in a river That's how traditionally it works.
Yeah.
So I don't see any issue there. That's just one is alive in one case, other person is not alive in the other case.
Okay.
And so there are some the samadhi is an important topic because those days the sannyasi's body is left in the river. Let the river take care of it. Let Ishvara take care of it. And many people started doing that. Then it became a problem because then that's polluting the river. Throwing dead bodies in the river is not the right thing to do. And so afterwards, sannyasis got together, and then they have their own rules and regulations now as to what you should do, how you should do, who you should inform, etc. All these have come up, and so I don't know all those details, but we have to be cognizant of today's world versus the world that was 100 years ago, 200 years ago, etc. So
Okay. Thanks.
so I will
Completely.
if I know anything, I will let you know. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks. So we have a class. We have Swamiji talking at 5 p.m. Indian Standard Time today, and then Gurumurti ji is talking at 6 p.m. I think you all have seen that announcement. Somebody had posted it in our group, and so Gurumurti ji is going to talk about Swamiji, Swami Dayananda Saraswati ji, today being the anniversary, 5th anniversary of his samadhi, and 90th anniversary, birth anniversary of Swamiji. So those of you who are interested can join both those talks. Definitely 5 o'clock we can meet if you're all available. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Dhanyavada.
So let's chant the Dhanvantri shlokas. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Dhanvantaraye Amrita Kalasahastaya Sarvamaya Vinashanaya Trailokyanataya Shri Mahavishnave Namaha. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Dhanvantaraye Amrita Kalasahastaya Sarvamaya Vinashanaya Trailokyanataya Shri Mahavishnave Namaha. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Dhanvantaraye Amrita Kalashahastaya Sarvamaya Vinashanaya Trailokyanataya Shri Mahavishnave Namaha. Okay. Thank you all. See you all this afternoon.
Namaskar.
Namaste.
ಧನ್ಯವಾದ.
ಧನ್ಯವಾದ. Thank you.